Okay, we're back with House of the Dragon, season 2. I have a guest here today with me. Say hello,
That's right.
guest.
It's me, Silver,
Hi,
your
Silver.
friend.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, so season 2, episode 1. What did we think? Like, if you were to give a rating right now, I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, you are putting me on the spot.
The answer might change. We might discuss it a bit, and the answer might change. You are entitled to have your answer change, but for now, yeah, what would you give it?
Let's give it a 7.5 out of 10.
A 7.5.
That's
I
right.
was, yeah, I was thinking about where I was gonna rate it.
Hmm.
I loved that episode like a lot. Numerically, I want to say like an 8 or an 8.5.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think it was as punchy or potent as the likes of season 1 episode 1 or season 1 episode 8,
Hmm.
which were my two favorite episodes, but it's up there. It's probably like third place.
It,
And
it was a very solid
yeah,
episode.
and I um not to get into spoilers, but I'm gonna early reviews have said that out of the first 4 episodes of this season, episode 1 is the worst. That's what early reviews have said, and that makes me very
Wow.
excited. That makes me very
Yeah.
excited if this is the worst of the first half of the season. Like I'm pumped. Um yeah. Anyways, we have on the screen right now a picture of what appears to be, I think, the Doom of Valyria.
Hmm.
Um, and this is part of the new title sequence that they're doing for this season. What do you think about this new title sequence compared to last season when we had um the gray stone and then like the blood running through it? What do you think?
Yeah. I like the new title sequence. I think that it's a big improvement over the gray kind of blurry
Mhm. I
marble stone with blood running
I
through it.
I think
Sorry, go ahead.
it's no. Yeah. I would agree with you. I find this more, I think, visually appealing than
Mhm.
the previous season. Um, one thing
I do
though,
like
yes, no,
I
go.
do like how the previous seasons one like tied into Viserys's hobbies and like the
Well,
idea that it's about bloodlines and the way that they split and come into conflict
wait,
and all this stuff. Like it was
that?
maybe a bit on the nose, but I was like, yeah, this it's what the show is about. Good job.
Oh my! Wait, now that you say that, wait, that's such a good point. That season 1, the intro reflected like Viserys's interests. This is like the tapestry sort of situation. Kind of reminds me, now that you say that, this kind of reminds me of Helena and her, like, because
Dragons of flesh weaving dragons of
yeah,
cloth. Was it?
yeah, because like what does she do? She like embroiders, or so, like, yeah, she embroiders. And
That's true. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, like, if that's saying anything, but
Yeah.
that's cool to think about.
If nothing else, like the tapestry of history is something that people talk about. There's there are also some historical tapestries, like the Bayonne tapestry, I think it's called, or
Yes.
yeah,
Dep- I forget what. I'm not a huge history buff. I've heard people talk about that
yeah. I
before.
think I think that's not the right name, but I think it does start with a
Bayou
B.
tapestry,
Anyway,
something like that. Yeah,
yeah,
but
but
yeah.
there's a big famous tapestry that we get a lot of historical information
Mm-hmm.
from, and this kind of alludes to that.
Yeah.
And there's blood kind of soaking the tapestry as it's
Yes.
being woven, and that's
That's
also
the
quite
first
nice.
thing. Yeah, that's the first thing we see in this intro is what you said. Is the blood coming from the cloth.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful intro.
Yes, and I think just like the Game of Thrones intro and House of the Dragon season 1, I think that this intro will change as more things in the story happens, because right now it kind of lingers on the doom of Valyria for a bit, like I'm trying to remember, like, the doom happens, and then I think we see a bunch of, like, images from, like, way back in the lore, like Nissa and the Targaryens fleeing Valyria, and it's only until, like, the second half of the intro sequence where we get to see, like, Aegon the First, Aegon's conquest. So I feel like as we move forward, like, a bunch of those pre-conquest images will be phased out, and then, like, next episode, for example, we're probably going to see horrifically, like, blood and cheese happen on the tapestry.
It would make sense to start putting in these beats that are happening in the story into the tapestry,
because
the idea of blood and cheese themselves in this tapestry kind of makes me laugh.
Yeah, or, like, I don't know. What else, what could you put there that wouldn't be funny? Because, like, you can't put Helena sitting in a corner as Alicent and Kristen are on the bed. That would be I mean, I don't know.
If the tapestries that were diegetic to the show in season 1 or anything to go by, that's exactly what they'd be putting on these tapestries.
That is a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like a weeping Helena or something.
Yeah. No. Oh my. Or like no. Now that a thought popped into my head, and then it immediately was no. The finger. You know how, like, the camera, like, very dramatically, like, the shot of her pointing. But
no.
Now that I think about it, it's like it's just a finger. It's like no. That it was just a thought that popped into my head. Like, oh my god, wait, yeah. Oh, that's fucked up. That's a meme format now. Oh, that's messed up.
Sad to say. Yeah.
That's a meme format now. Oh no. Oh. Anyways, yeah.
Well, I guess there's some levity for the video, imagining that the next episode's tapestry has a picture of Helena, like, pointing,
and a caption
bottom
underneath
text at the bottom.
And it's like, I don't know. I can't think of something funny. It's gonna be something unrelated, like, Thailand give Jaehaerys a pony ride.
Just the words bottom text. Right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It changes every episode.
Oh no. That's terrible.
Yeah, every time something terrible happens, they have to make a crude joke about it. That's what's gonna happen. I mean, the last image that we got this episode was Vhagar eating Lucerys and Arax, and I feel like that image is also very memeable.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, like me at 3 a.m. when I'm hungry or whatever. Something. Anyway, we went off the rails. Let's see what... Oh, wait, I forgot to introduce... Oh, I'm such a bad... I'm so bad at this. I forgot to introduce what the format is for the people at home. So for the people at home, I have a series of images that I will be clicking on, and me and Silver here are going to be talking about House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 1. And the images are just going to be serving... the images are basically just going to be like a prompt for us to talk about a certain thing. So we were talking about the intro for a bit, because we had the intro sequence. We have the intro sequence on the screen.
No, Viper, you didn't forget to introduce the format. You are giving the audience a little taste of what the format is like before introducing it.
Yeah, exactly.
But look,
this was the cold open.
Yeah.
This was the cold open.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, I can do I can do transitions. Hey, cold open.
Cold.
Yeah, because it's cold at the wall. We have here Cregan Stark. I've heard some people on the internet being very lukewarm on this scene. What did you think of this scene? You know, the North.
Okay, man, I have a few thoughts on this scene. One, it's part of me quite likes that they have almost like an Outlander vibe, where they're like, here's this hunky Scottish guy talking hunkily Scottishly at you, and you know, with this other dude. And they have a little bit of romantic chemistry. Not gonna lie, you know. I feel like there was definitely some sparks flying there.
I don't want to disagree with you, but also it's like, do you think Jace would like come back, like go back to the North and stuff? Like, what reason would he like? He's already at Dragonstone. I mean, maybe if they are like getting it on, but
yeah. Oh, I don't know.
My concern is that that's this is the first and last time we get to see these two interacting, because like the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, what reason does Jace have to go back to the North now that he's already got, like, he already has the support of the Starks?
Well, maybe Cregan will come south.
Maybe Cregan will come south.
Yeah.
Huh. Is that... Oh, I could see him maybe going down to Harrenhal eventually. Yeah, like, if, you know, in the books, and I know that you haven't read the books, but in the books, Cregan just stays up north.
Yeah, well, maybe he'll come down in the hour of the wolf, you know, and he'll be like,
I have bad news for you.
Yeah?
I don't think that's happening this season. I don't think we're getting that this season.
I don't think this season. But
yeah. Oh my god. No, we're definitely getting more Cregan Stark in House of the Dragon. Like, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. For sure we're getting more Cregan. It's just maybe I didn't phrase it that well, but I meant that, like, in this season.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I fear that this might be the last time, either the last time we see him or the last time Jacaerys and Cregan interact with each other.
Yeah, I don't mind that too much. I'm fine with setting up stuff like seasons in advance.
Yeah. And like the nostalgia that me and probably like a lot of other Game of Thrones fans felt, like, immediately when the episode opens and that music plays, like, a lot of people, like, recognize that as, like, the Stark theme.
Yeah. I
cool.
like, speaking of nostalgia, I like that the scene takes place at the wall.
Yes.
I know some people have, like, complained about the logistics, which, to a degree, I guess is fair, but also, like, it's easy to imagine that Jace went to Winterfell and they were like, Lord Cregan Stark is actually at the wall. And then he was like, oh, well, I'll just go fly up there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. You could feasibly, like, fly a dragon to the wall in about like, I don't know, 5 days. Like that's probably reasonable, I would say. Um
Yeah.
prop What's not feasible is flying to the north of the wall in under 12 hours
Oh
as
no.
they did. And so, already that's better. And we know that 10 days pass since the end of season 1. So 10
Oh,
days have
I
passed.
didn't know that, but that's good
Yep.
to know.
Yep. 10 days have passed.
Nice.
Cregan's. I was gonna say something else. What was I gonna say?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. That was just me
Okay.
and my brain getting all wonky.
Yeah, sure.
We didn't get to see the Pact of Ice and Fire. In the books, it's mentioned that Cregan and Jacaerys got along very well, and they sign what's called the Pact of Ice and Fire. And, like, when I read that, like, before season 1 of House of the Dragon, I'm like, that it's called the Pact of Ice and Fire. That has to mean something. That has to be important. That has to be
Yeah.
some sort of, like, conversation between the two about some sort of, like, prophecy, whether that's on the Targaryen side or on the Stark side with the North and the White Walkers and whatever. And we sort of just don't see that. And that's kind of weird to me, because I felt that was like an opportunity for us to, I don't know. I guess that felt like an opportunity for us to get like some of the motivations of Cregan Stark and why he's like so hesitant to give like his entire army to fight for the Blacks instead of just like 2,000 of his graybeards, right?
Yeah. Does Jace know about the prophecy in the show?
We don't know if he does, but I would say at this point he probably does not. But maybe he does. We don't know. We don't know if he knows. It's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that if he knew, he would have a different reaction to Cregan being like, no, I need to like man the wall because there's some real bad shit up north.
Yeah.
You'd think Jace would be like, oh wait, no, yeah, you're right. Actually, I see what you mean because of this prophecy. But he's not. Maybe they'll answer your prayers, Viper, and Jace will find out, and he'll be like, "Oh, I gotta go fly up north again this season to go see my boyfriend, Cregan Stark, and sign the Pact of Ice and Fire."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how do they do that without being fan servicey? How do they do that?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it'll just be.
I want this. Don't get me wrong. I want this. It's just I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure if that could happen and could fit in. But yeah, go on.
I agree. It would feel out of place probably, but there's hope.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought that the dialogue in the scene, the old timiness is fun. You know, it feels stage play. That's fun.
Yeah.
I think Jace was pretty savvy in the scene, even though he doesn't get a whole lot out of it. The way that it opens with Cregan talking about Torrhen Stark and his honor and all that stuff, and then Jace being like, "Yeah, but Torrhen wouldn't have bent the knee unless he believed in the Targaryen cause, right?" And it's like that is just such a perfect way of like, if you're cynical about it, manipulating Cregan, or less cynical, like seeing where Cregan is coming from and coming to this shared understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, good on you, Jace. You're you're doing some real diplomacy shit.
Yeah, and we've seen Jace do, or at least try to do some politicking, as Viserys would
Mm-hmm.
say, uh, back in season one, when I think he was trying to learn how to speak High Valyrian,
Mm-hmm.
and that led to a conversation with Rhaenyra. So yeah, we know that Jace is pretty responsible. So good on him. Um, Another thing that I've seen some people complaining about is the acting in this scene. I didn't have I didn't have an issue with the acting, to be honest. Like when I heard um Cregan Stark's voice and his demeanor and all that, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's an ancestor of Ned Stark." And I could believe that
Yeah.
in like every way.
Yeah. A friend of mine that I was talking to definitely was not happy with it.
Not happy with the
But
acting?
yeah, I
Yeah.
guess I thought that I thought it was fun. I thought it
Yeah.
was fun.
Yeah, I I thought that that was an ancestor of Ned Stark, and that's a good thing because he is.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
He is,
We
and he carries around ice with him all the time.
Yes, ice is such a cool sword because it's so intimidating. It's like a 6 foot long sword, like executioner's blade.
Yeah, which is actually which
Intense.
is interesting because the sword that he's carrying there, I don't know. I think that's probably like a serviceable combat weapon rather than like an executioner's
Yeah,
blade.
yeah, like a great sword. Uh huh.
Yeah, and being Valyrian steel, it's going to be lighter than you'd expect.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a good point. That is a good point. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Another thing I would like. Would you like to say something else?
I was gonna prompt you on a different like direction for the conversation, but if you had
I
way to
have
go.
one more thing to say about this entire northern plot, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, they built this, like they built a set for the wall. They
Oh,
built it. They built it back in season
okay.
one.
Yeah.
When they went to Storm's End, they didn't bother building Storm's End because it was just used for one scene. So they
Mm-hmm.
had it CGI. They built the wall. They built it. So, a part of me is like, you might be onto something. Like, we might be getting more, at least like scenes of the wall. If not, like, yeah. We'll probably, and I don't know how they're gonna do it. It's gonna be weird if it's like Cregan by himself and like no Jace.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe Jace could fly back. I don't know. They probably built the wall for a reason. Like probably because there's gonna be more scenes at the wall. We don't know how many, but food for thought.
Yeah.
Food for thought.
If I was gonna be a little less hype, I might say that maybe because they had shown the wall off so many times in Game of Thrones, they were like, we need it to look good. Like we need it to be clearly they're still at that set.
That's fair. I can see that as well.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see in the coming weeks.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
I wanted to know what you thought about the 1 in 10 Starks every 40 years.
Yes. Oh my God. There's so much to there's so much to say about it because the lore implications of that is really interesting. Because all of a sudden we're left with the question with, well, when did this tradition stop? Because, and you might have been a part of this conversation. Oh, you probably, yeah, no, you were. But us, and some other people were having a little bit of a disagreement in a call, like a couple of days back, with someone who really didn't like the fact that they introduced this tradition because it like breaks the lore or whatever. And I feel like that, no, it doesn't really break the lore. It just gives us another question and another like mystery of like, when was this lost? Like, I don't feel that that plot point was incompatible with anything else we like have in the story about the Starks.
If nothing else, it helps play into and develop the fact that at this time period, the wall is like fully manned.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
It's not until like later on that the walls, like the Night's Watches, becomes this threadbare kind of shadow of what it once was.
How? Okay. King Jaehaerys and Queen Alicent gave the Night's Watch lots of support during the reign of King Jaehaerys. They gave the Night's Watch more land and like more funding. So in many ways, like I think that the Night's Watch was really, really strong during the reign of King Jaehaerys and during this period. How utterly baffling is it to think that the Night's Watch has been around and has been like thriving for thousands of years, for like 5,000 plus years. And only in the like last 150 or so years turned into a shit show. Like, only 3 castles are manned in the main series. Like, what the heck happened up there? That's concerning.
Honestly, so there's a thing in the main series, at least, which is that we actually kind of don't know about history that goes far back, right? Like Sam is talking about, like, we think that you're the 999th Lord Commander, but I can only find records for like 200 or something like that.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it could be a thing where, like, the Night's Watch actually wasn't all that impressive before the Targaryens came.
Yeah.
And gave them all of its support. And, maybe their boom and bust times where things would be really good for the Night's Watch and be really bad subsequently. It's like, in the story, we hear a lot of these, like, these thousands years old absolutes about history, but whenever someone goes around and digs into it, they don't necessarily seem to hold up.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, maybe the Night's Watch wasn't always as prestigious as it claims to be. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Interesting things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like you say, it's a lot of food for thought.
We might not get any real answers about what happened at the Night's Watch until, I don't know, maybe Winds? Or maybe...
Yeah.
I definitely don't think we're getting answers this season. Maybe Winds, or maybe, I don't know, like, there's a Dunk and Egg novel that takes place at the Wall, but who knows when that's going to be written. Or there will be, I should say. George has said that there will be a Dunk and Egg novel set at the Wall. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe Bloodraven has something to do with it. We don't know.
Anyways, crossed.
Moving on. We really got a lot out of the Northern plot.
We've exhausted
the 3-minute scene. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about this shit. Aegon. What did you think?
I think the scenes that... So I'm torn. Either my favorite scenes this episode are either almost any scene that Aegon is in, or any scene that Rhaenyra is in.
That's very true.
Yeah, which I mean, it's the king and the queen, so that's
Yes.
kind of what you want, I guess,
Yeah.
right?
What a 180 from what a 180 from episode 9 when we last saw him.
Yeah. People say that it's a 180, and or they say that like it seems inconsistent, but to me, it's perfectly consistent.
I feel that the narrative here is like power can do lots to a person, right? That Aegon was always sort of a college frat boy, little piece of shit. But now he just got elected to be the president of a club, and he feels like he's the shit, which he's.
Yeah. So my take is Aegon. What we see in the first season is Aegon is someone who, in a very childish way, has an emotional need for affirmation and validation.
Yes.
Like, yeah, and especially from like his mother, right? Like, but his mom is like cold to him.
Yes.
And so he acts out in these like terrible ways, but
yeah,
it's one of those things where he's acting from a place of emotional need and disharmony in that way.
And now that he's the king, like we see in his coronation, we see like a pretty, honestly, like a pretty drastic shift in his coronation scene in episode 9, where he was hesitant to become king, but then he wields Blackfire and he's crowned, and then all of the small folk are cheering for him, and then he's like, oh, I like this. These people love me.
That's the thing. Yeah, exactly. These people love me, right? The small folk are giving me that validation that I've always wanted. And so now in season 2, he's like, again in a very childish way, like, let me be a good boy for the small folk, so that mommy small folk still give me the love and attention that I want.
And we see this very clearly when he's during the scene with the petitions, where he's a people pleaser. He's like, okay, let's give these people back their sheep. Let's give these people, the money that they want. That sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's just make it all easy for everyone.
Yeah.
Especially the small folk who love me.
Even if it's not realistic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Also, yes.
A tenth of the sheep, a tenth of the Starks.
Okay, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's
just a fun little short line.
That's a fun little number. Another thing I would like to point out with Aegon is the fact that, he was in many ways like neglected as a child, both from Alicent and Viserys, in many ways, I would say. Like Viserys very much just, he was like, I want a son, and now I have a son, and that's done. Cool. And he didn't really...
Even more, maybe more tragically, he's sick and...
Yes. Oh, and yeah. Sick dying, for the later part of his life. Yeah. Like, I feel like a lot of why Aegon didn't receive any of the validation he wanted was, Alicent being angry all the time at Rhaenyra, and that occupying her thoughts, and Viserys both being sick and like paying attention to Rhaenyra, because Viserys always intended Rhaenyra to be his heir.
Yeah.
So yeah, and because Aegon didn't receive the validation he needed from both of his parents, I feel like a lot of his parenting style is shown in this episode with how he treats Jaehaerys. Like, he, and I wouldn't say he's a good parent, because taking taking your kid out of school to a war council is, what's the word I'm thinking of? I have it on the tip of my tongue. It's not responsible. There, yeah, it's not a responsible thing to do. Yeah, but he thinks he's being a good parent at that point, because he's showing his child attention. He's not paying attention to the war that's happening in the realm. He's paying attention to his child at this war council, who's being a little shit and stealing Tywin Lannister's like marble thingy, and encouraging him.
Which is funny, because the seat where Tywin Lannister sits is the seat where Beesbury sits when he gets killed. So, where other men have done violence, this Targaryen child is doing play.
And Jaehaerys is sitting in Tywin Lannister's old seat. So, what does that say about Tywin? That he can be replaced by a child, by a toddler. Like Tywin Lannister, I feel like eats a lot of shit in this show, and that's very funny to me.
It really does. Yeah.
Oh, in the trailer, have you watched the trailer? The Weeks Ahead trailer that was put out.
No, I haven't seen any of the trailers.
Okay. In that trailer, a person is seen with mud all over their face, falling down, falling on the ground. People don't. A lot of people don't know who that person is. I have a feeling that it's Tywin. Literally, I feel like Tywin Lannister is like the punching bag of this entire season. That's really very funny to me. Yeah, because you can see in the trailer that the person has a blonde beard. So,
Got him.
Exactly.
Got him. The scene with Jaehaerys in the small council is very cute. And it's like it perfectly shows off Aegon's like inability to be a responsible adult. While like playing up the fact that he's a loving father, which is a nice. It's nice that they're like highlighting this flaw while kind of highlighting something that you can see as a virtue. One thing that I find funny about that scene at the start is when he's going to like pick up Jaehaerys to bring him to the small council. Yeah. It's he's like, he's my heir. He has to learn how to be king, so that when he's king,
exactly. Just giving Aegon's giving Jaehaerys a lot of what Viserys did not give him.
Right.
In many ways.
But also it's funny because he has to like visibly inspect
yes,
his kids to see which one is which.
I caught that as well. That maybe he sees Jaehaerys only as like the heir to the throne and not as a human being, which might be a little fucked up.
Well, maybe that's I think it's just because they're twins and they look so similar.
Yeah.
Right?
Blood and cheese got mixed up as well.
Yeah. So. To me, it's funny because like a big part of the show is like the gender dynamic issue, right? Like Rhaenyra can't rule because she's a woman. And it's like, Jaehaerys is going to go to the small council to learn how to be a king because he's my heir. Because he's a boy. Because boys are different from girls. So different, I can't tell them apart.
Yeah. And he gets his head cut off later in the episode because of that as well. Which, terrible thing.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on.
All right. Anything else? Yeah.
Yeah. I was about to say, don't really have anything more to say about Aegon, but wow, did the show really try to make us sympathize with this, in very many ways, a terrible human.
I mean, and it succeeded. You know.
Yeah.
I'm not above sympathizing with a terrible person. I don't mind. Terrible people can still be human.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. We're just gonna clip that first part and nothing else.
Sure.
Okay, Rhaenyra, you were talking about we were just talking about how the best scenes in this episode were either when Rhaenyra was on screen or when Aegon was on screen. Do we want to talk about Rhaenyra this episode a bit?
Yeah. So the show's top billing actors are just like, clearly they spared no expense.
Yes.
Because it's some of the best acting that you'll see.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra is like at the top. Like Emma Darcy is just killing it every scene.
They really are. Rhaenyra has one line this episode. A lot of people probably have noticed that. And that just draws to, the importance of that one line, and very tragically also, how other people perceive it. And, Daemon perceives I want Aemond Targaryen as, all right, let's just kill Aemond in a very terrible way. And terrible in the sense of that, like, that wasn't really thought through.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk about it later. I have a lot of thoughts on Daemon this episode.
The thing about this is, like, Rhaenyra is clearly grieving this episode, and I don't know if acting was a good idea on the part of Daemon. Because it's like, I want Aemond Targaryen. Okay, well, we're fighting a war right now. We don't really have the luxury of misinterpreting our words, So maybe if you were wanting to devise a plan, talk to her.
Yeah, I mean, if you can,
you got 4 words. You got 4 words. You're very bold for extrapolating out of those 4 words, but I don't know if that was the right call.
I mean, Daemon is pretty happy to kind of do what he wants to do, with no leeway, right? With no like go ahead given. The start of the episode, he's like, "Hey, Rhaenys, get back on your dragon. I don't have the authority to command you, but get back on your dragon.
Yeah.
And let's go kill Vhagar." Well, nobody told you to do that, David.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And okay, we're talking about other things at this point. Daemon and Blood and Cheese. Let's save that for maybe a little bit later. That was probably my bad for bringing up Blood and Cheese and how that stemmed from.
Honestly, I think a big part of it is that, like, there's not a whole lot to say about Rhaenyra this episode, other than, like, what an incredible performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One addendum I would like to add: some people were talking about Syrax and how Syrax didn't look good this episode. What? I thought If anything, I thought Cyrax looked better. Like, I thought Cyrax looked visually aged up.
Oh,
From
yeah.
episode one.
I
Like,
suppose I can see that.
yeah.
I didn't notice a problem, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I was... Yeah.
To me, the first time I watched the episode, and when I saw Cyrax, especially when I saw, like, Cyrax's face, because, like, size-wise, I don't think she grew all that much, but, like, you can definitely see it in her face that she looks, like,
she's
more
mature.
gruff. And, like, they're, like, almost like she has, like, more wrinkles or whatever. Yeah, I thought she looked fine. I think we've talked about Rhaenyra enough. Great performance.
Emma Darcy and their lovely, lovely performance.
Yeah. Speaking of lovely performance, Alicent and Kristen, when do you think that started?
Well, it's been 10 days, like you say. And
yeah.
I could see it being like a nervous reaction by Alicent once, like, news of what Aemon did got back. I can maybe see that. Like, oh shit, things are really, like, ramping up, and I'm feeling really anxious. Luckily, I have a boy toy that I can take advantage of, I guess, is a way of looking at it.
We have a worst case scenario and we have a best case scenario here. And they're both terrible. The best case scenario is they started right after Viserys' death. That's not fun to think about. Worst case scenario, this has been happening ever since the end of episode 5 of season 1, when Alicent saved Cole.
Yeah. Alicent says, like, we can't again.
And
after
they
after,
probably
like,
say that scene. After they probably say that every time.
Right. I imagine that, like, this has been, like, an off and on thing.
Yeah.
Between them for some time. Like, Alicent might have just been talking about, like, again, meaning this time, the first time. But it seems like the impression I got is that she's referring to a pattern of behavior that they had fallen into before.
One of my favorite theories that stem from this is that the reason we haven't seen Daeron in any of the photos is because he's Dornish. He looks Dornish.
He looks like a Dornish gentleman.
and House of the Dragon, the people there didn't want to spoil that, because that would have spoiled. Yeah.
Which will be interesting if he's riding around on Tessarion.
Yeah.
Because he's not Targaryen, right?
Well, he's like, at that point, what? He's like 25% Targaryen.
Oh, really? Yeah. I guess
he's like 20.
Alicent has some Targ stuff going on.
Well, wait, hold on. Is my math correct? Wait, no. Okay, so no. Oh, yeah, you're right. Wait, no. Yeah, because Viserys doesn't even. Wow. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, no, he wouldn't be Targaryen at all.
Yeah.
Huh.
Interesting. I mean, it would be really ironic if he has hair that's similar-ish to Rhys Ifans. And so it's like, well, he has brown hair. Therefore, he's not a Targaryen. He's probably Kristen Cole. But actually, he's Viserys's. It's just that the brown hair came through.
The brown hair of the
like Viserys said it might.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I think something might be up with Daeron. Something. But who knows?
It's interesting that they're keeping him in the wings.
You know what's absolutely fucked?
What's that?
Um, in the last scene when Helena walks in on them,
Mm-hmm.
they're in Rhaenyra's old bedroom
Mm.
from episode 4, I think. Yeah,
I did not notice that, but that's
they're in Rhaenyra's old. It's like a demented like love triangle they have going on that I don't want to think about, and they both hate Rhaenyra, and that's some ooh, that's some like
well.
petty.
Helena knows to go into that room, which means that Alicent has been like living in that room for a while,
Yeah, yeah.
which is something, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Aegon becomes king, and so he and Helena need the like, the kings and queens chambers,
Yeah,
which means that Alicent has to go somewhere.
yeah. So she goes to like the princess's chambers, I guess. I guess now that she's the dowager queen.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I need to know more about how Kristen Cole feels about this sexual relationship with Alicent, because like he seems very rigid and like I am performing a service.
You know what's fucked?
Like at the end of the first scene. What's up?
Yeah. Oh, um, that Kristen Cole asks Alicent to reattach his white cloak.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the symbol of honor. Like, put that on me.
Yeah, I mean that's the
Right
thing, right? Well,
after.
like, but I mean, he can't do it himself, presumably.
Yeah, I'm talking more about like the metaphorical implications of like the
Well, so
white
am I.
cloak. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, he can't do it. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
That's one of the things is that like so let's imagine that Alicent were king, right?
Yeah.
I know she isn't, but let's imagine that she is.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen Cole would then be like have an oath to protect her and to obey her commands, right? So if one of her commands is like, "Hey, perform sexual service for me," then he, as a Kingsguard, like that's what the White Cloak
Yeah.
is about.
That's like a power dynamic that's definitely being abused here. But
Yeah, and that's one reason why I'm like, I want to know more about how Kristen Cole feels about this. Is Kristen Cole like, I like that Aemond kid. I could be his dad, and his mom's pretty nice too.
yeah.
Let me get in on that.
Yeah.
Or is he like, like Alicent is under a lot of stress,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
like I have this obligation to serve and protect her, and what like what is his mind like in these moments?
Again, I think like again in like a demented way that the phantom of Rhaenyra is there as well of like I think on some level they both see this as some sort of like revenge act against Rhaenyra.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's wild.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have that take at all. But if that like if there's
Like
more
on
if
like
they
a
build on that,
psychological
then
sense. On a
that'd be
psychological
wild.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that. I don't, wow.
In the same
I don't know.
way.
That's so petty.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so petty.
But I think that on some level that might factor into that. And
Okay.
tangentially related is the scene of when Alicent is in the bathtub, and the handmaidens are there. The handmaidens selected by Larys.
Yeah.
And she like dismisses them. I read that as Alicent being reminded that these people are all like Larys's servants, and it's almost as if like Larys is touching her at that moment.
Exactly.
And that's like
that's exactly
gross
what
to her.
It's like. Larys is touching her and bathing her vicariously through these people.
And that's gross.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So when you mentioned the shadow of Rhaenyra, I was like, Rhaenyra kind of took Kristen Cole to bed under like sketchy power dynamic circumstances, and so what I thought of was that you were maybe suggesting that like Kristen Cole has this like lingering thought pattern about like, you know, like what his position as a Kingsguard and what it might like require him to do sexually, which is so I was thinking of it more as like a you know, the way that victimized people fall back into patterns that are related to their victimization. But that's an interesting point.
That's an interesting point. I don't know if the show wants to portray Kristen as a victim. From what we've seen, I don't know. I don't know, is my answer to that. But it is interesting to think about.
Yeah. Right now, they've kind of avoided portraying him as anything, which is why I'm like,
this season at least.
What's going on in this dude's head?
Yeah. This, in this one episode at least. In season one, we got a lot of getting to like him and then getting to hate him. I think whatever way you cut this dynamic, it's not good, and it's fucked up on many levels. He
toward the latter end of season one, he just always seemed like he was so like ragged, like running just like on fumes all the time.
Spiteful,
Yeah. It's easy to forget that like there's not much time that's passed between the end of season one and the beginning of season two in the show. Anything else?
I'm gonna say let's move on to the next image. And so this is Lucerys's funeral scene, and I'd like to wager that the moment right before the scene where Rhaenyra and Jace were having their moment and Jace breaks down, all the way to this scene cut with Alicent, probably the best sequence this episode.
Okay.
Yeah. That was really
pretty
good.
Strong. I don't disagree.
Lots to unpack there. I think that especially Alicent lighting the candle for Lucerys, speaks to what Alicent thinks about this entire thing. That this should not have happened. That this was a mistake, and she wished that it had gone down differently.
Yeah, which is something that she's kind of been has kind of been a thing for her for a few episodes now, right? Like she's trying to send letters to Rhaenyra to get her to like she.
That's a good point.
Ever since the Green Council,
that's a good point.
Like, oh wait, this like you guys were just gonna do a coup anyway.
Yeah.
She's been like, this is going way too far.
Yeah. I would say like, even since like episode 8 of last season, where she and Rhaenyra kind of made up. Um, you know, things would probably have been fine if it were just Alicent and Rhaenyra having a feud, but now,
Mhm.
you know, at least Alicent's children have like inherited that that hatred for Rhaenyra's side.
Yeah,
And like even if Alicent and Rhaenyra become best buds again and make up, like that isn't going to dissipate the anger that Aemond and Aegon have.
yeah. It's so poignant to think that like these two can make up, but it's just too
Yeah,
late
yeah,
because
it's
they've
too late.
already infected their children.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if they're like metaphorically healed,
Yeah,
the infection is still tearing
it's
their
it's this
apples
generational
apart.
thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And in
and
I sorry,
it's
you
so much
continue.
more poignant because they did try to make up.
Yes, yes, yeah, they did. Um, but you know, a Vagar decided to have a little snack on Lucerys and Arax, and here we are.
Yeah.
And what I think what breaks me about like the funeral scene, especially, is how little Joffrey th- threw the seahorse toy that Lucerys had
Hmm.
into the fire. That
Yeah.
ugh. And Rhaenyra's face here in that particular scene, like that was such an angry face.
Hmm.
I'm I'm curious to see where she is next episode, because from what we see in this scene, it would make sense for her to be just like straight up angry next episode and filled with hatred for the Greens. But
Yeah.
as we learn that something terrible happens to the Greens uh later this episode. And yeah, where do you think Rhaenyra is going to be next episode, in episode 2?
Let's see. In episode 2, I think.
After learning about blood and cheese.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing.
Oh man.
The exact same thing that happened to her has now happened to Alicent and
Right.
Helaena.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Everything she just felt and had to go through, Alicent has to go through that as well.
yeah. So it's kind of this strongly opposing force to the trajectory that she's on in this scene, where she's like, let's go fuck them all up, and then Damon is like, okay, and then this this terrible farce happens,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's like, well, okay, maybe we don't fuck them all up. I don't know. It would be interesting if Rhaenyra is like, oh, good, like we one down, like like it'd be terrible.
Oh
but,
no, no.
right? Like, because I'm trying to think of how, like, what you do with Rhaenyra that isn't just like having her waffle back and forth between like vengeance and understanding too much.
You think what you know what I think?
I don't.
I think this is the beginning of a rift between Daemon and Rhaenyra.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Yeah.
We know that rift happens in the story.
Yeah. It doesn't happen this early, but this could maybe be like a seed to that.
Yeah, and who knows how early this is, quote unquote, right? Because if they're condensing stuff and tracking the timeline and all that, and like,
because now Rhaenyra knows that Daemon is capable and willing to do things like behind her back.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Before, like, the terrible things Daemon has done, he's either been an independent agent or he's done with her okay. So yeah,
but now he doesn't check.
Loose cannon.
He didn't check with this one. And
yeah, although I mean, you know, she gave him she gave him the order, kind of. Right, like, she set the strategic objective of get
Aemond, yeah. Mm-hmm. But as we find out, they don't get Aemond.
They really don't.
The reason you get Aemond is you remove a military threat. You don't remove a military threat by doing what they do. That's not how you go about it. There's no reason.
Do you think Rhaenyra in that war council was like, I want Aemond Targaryen removed as a military threat? I don't think that she was really thinking along those lines. I mean, maybe she was, but it seemed like she was out for revenge.
Revenge, yeah.
Not as, like, strategic. Not like she was like, we need to remove Aemond. You're
right. You're right. You are correct. But my point is, they really did not get Aemond at the end of this episode.
You know, Aemond is possibly the least got he could ever be.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, correct. Ugh. What a terrible thing that happened. Do you want to talk more about that terrible thing?
Sure. And I have got so much to say.
Yeah, the image that we have is Helaena, because poor Helaena.
Her acting was so good in this. She did such a good job.
That I was fully convinced that was how a neurodivergent person would have to act if that terrible thing happened to her.
Yeah.
Oh.
And like, neurodivergent, yes, but also just like shock.
Shock, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
There were people who were were expecting this scene to be bigger, and I feel like that's not the takeaway here. I feel like, this isn't a pissing competition. We're not seeing like who can come up with the most goriest and messed up thing possible. And like a lot of people I've seen in like the comments of like reaction videos to this episode, a lot of people were like, oh, this was more horrific in the books. Oh, this wasn't as horrific as in the books. Oh, this wasn't as, like, it's not a pissing competition. It's not a pissing competition. We're not seeing who can make this the most messed up thing. The fact of the matter is, like a 5-year-old got killed here, and that's terrible. No matter what way you do it, like, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, it's so, like, intrinsically horrible already that it's like, why are, like, it's weird to complain about it not being horrible enough. Yes. But it's like, of course it's horrible enough. Mm-hmm. Like, in an objective world.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean it's not horrible enough? Okay, so what are your thoughts? I know you've shared some already. Do you have anything else to share?
It was smart of them to not show anything, but have those horrific saw ass sounds play, because it's because the mental picture that people get is not a very pretty one. And it's like,
It's true.
you don't have to show it. You don't have to show it. You just play those sounds, and people's horrible imaginations will just fill in the blanks. And I feel like that was a very smart way that they handled that situation, but also, those sounds were very haunting, and I did not like them.
Yeah, it's also it's very candidly shot from Helena's point of view.
Yeah.
Which like makes it feel more grounded and therefore more horrible.
Yeah. You know? Oh. Yeah.
Like it's just this horrible thing happening right over there. It's just this thing that's happening right over there.
Yeah.
I can hear it.
Yeah, there's not really. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about like the specifics of what actually happens, but ooh.
Yeah.
That was not a fun scene.
I noticed that a lot of your thoughts have to do with the scene itself.
Yeah.
And a lot of my thoughts have to do with things like around the scene.
Okay. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts.
Okay. It's strange to me that Daemon sets this whole thing up and then just hangs out in King's Landing while these two buffoons go and do this job. Like, it really seems like Daemon would have done this himself.
You were there when we made the comparison of this being like a horror version of the Three Stooges, right?
Yes. Yeah. In that call, I was the one who was like, this is like the Three Stooges.
Yeah. It really is. Because it's these two buffoons not knowing what they're doing and like getting the plan so horrifically wrong that at the end of the day, they just made it worse. They just made this entire conflict worse.
Yeah. So, you know, earlier in the episode, when Rhaenys is coming back from a patrol, and Daemon's like, get back on your mount, we're going to kill Vhagar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, so thinking about what Daemon means when he says we're going to kill Vhagar, like what his plan there is I think worth considering, because like Rhaenys is exhausted and Meleys, I think is her dragon, is also exhausted, and Vhagar isn't just like out in the sky hanging out, you know, like Vhagar is in King's Landing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sounds like Daemon is like, we're going to take our dragons to King's Landing, where they have these these scorpions set up to draw Vhagar out, which I guess means like hanging out there and raining fire down until Aemon mounts up.
And to your point, not only Vhagar, but Sunfire's there as well. And, you know, in hindsight, Daemon and Rhaenys probably don't know that Helaena doesn't mount her dragon at all in this war. You know, it's very reasonable to assume that Helaena, like Dreamfire's probably there as well. So that you're not talking about a 2 against 1. You're talking about a 3 against 2.
Yeah, with Vhagar counting for like 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I think Vhagar is dangerous enough in just like a straight up fair fight, so to speak, between Caraxes and Meleys, that taking an exhausted Meleys and exhausted Rhaenys out, and this plan is like it's extremely reckless, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then and this is like something that Daemon wants to do. And then eventually Rhaenyra is like, yeah, I want Aemond Targaryen, and Daemon changes his plan, like because presumably now he could go to Rhaenys and be like, hey, like you heard the queen, it's time.
I guess.
And even,
That's right. Yeah.
If Rhaenys would be like, well, you're still not the king, like I'll think of something myself or whatever. Like I don't need to obey this command right now. Even if that were the case, like I think that if Daemon was going to do the blood and cheese thing, like and be in King's Landing, he would just go and do it himself. He's the kind of guy.
This is a fair take.
Frustrated, huh?
This is a fair take.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in the books, the reason he doesn't is because he's at Harrenhal already.
He's occupied.
Yeah, he's occupied.
And there's something else that I wanted to talk about, which is something of a broad trend in the show.
Yeah.
Which is things happening by accident.
Yes. Misunderstandings.
Yeah. Alicent mishearing Viserys at the end of his life, for instance. And hearing him talk about, the prince that was promised and all that. And so being like, oh yeah, no, Aegon, or Viserys changed his mind. Aegon should be prince. And Vhagar killing Viserys against Aemon's will, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now Daemon, like, not deliberately targeting one of the king's sons, but targeting Aemond, and through a comedy of errors and incompetence from these catspaws that he hires, accidentally kills a kid. And I don't know, it's just, it feels like there's a lot of contrivances going on to soften the decisions that the characters are making.
Yeah, because mistakes are how you avoid blaming anybody.
Right. And it's, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about that.
I agree with your point. My observation for the broader trend of the show is very similar to yours, where I have observed that this show really wants to make all of the characters, or most of the main characters, redeemable and not like total villains. They tried portraying Aegon as charismatic and funny this episode. They like Daemon's like a war criminal. Daemon like killed his wife with a rock. Like, he's a terrible human being, and yet a lot of the fandom still really likes him. I feel like this show is shying away from having us hate a lot of the main characters because of, I think, like, in part of the marketing thing of, like, Team Black versus Team Green. Which side are you on? We want both sides to seem like viable for you to back, even though in season 1 it was mostly like Team Black that you were quote unquote supposed to root for. I feel like the fact that this episode was so focused on the Greens was intentional. It was intentionally done that way so that we could foster, sympathy towards these characters.
And it humanized most of them.
Yes.
With the maybe exception of Aemond, right? Like, we get Alicent, like, is more humanized. She's having sex. She's worried about creepy dudes creeping on her. And she's like, Dad, I'm trying to take charge here and, like, do something good.
It would have been such a different scene. Blood and Cheese would have been such a different scene if that was the first time we see Alicent and Kristen. If that was the first time we see them do it, that would have been too much. Like, I would have been overwhelmed. That would have been a totally different scene if that was the first time we saw them.
I did like that. Like they're just straight up having sex, like having full on, like, you might get pregnant from this sex, which is like a life and death game in this situation, right?
My headcanon is that, and this isn't like an outrageous take, but Kristen was probably supposed to guard Helena, and he isn't. So yeah, that's probably where the guards were, you know, as so many people were complaining about. You had one guard.
Yeah.
And that guard.
I mean, one is all you need if it's Kristen Cole. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah. Unless something terrible happens.
Because, like, the Kingsguard is fragmented at this point. Like, there are only, like, I think 3 Kingsguard in King's Landing. It's Eric with an A, Kristen Cole, and some other dude. And Harold Westerling is gone, and then the other 3 are with Rhaenyra. So yeah, not a lot of guards. Not a lot of guards. Although, I mean, you'd think that they would have just like tower guards, regular, high tower guards. Apparently not.
Knights hanging out at court, you know.
Hey, the fact that the door was unlocked was kind of weird, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. It's fine.
But like, you know, maybe
it works in the moment.
It works in the moment. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I think was Hitchcock. That's like, that's all I need. So long as it works in the moment, I've got you. I've still beaten you. Yeah. So the blood and cheese stuff was weird for me for those reasons. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I feel about the actual, like, the sequence leading up to the killing, where there are these bumbling and
you mean the full 10-minute short story scene of these 2 guys and a dog. Which, by the way, I hope the dog is okay. They posted. We all hope the dog is okay. They posted an interview on YouTube of the House of the Dragon cast doing an interview with puppies right after that episode aired. So that made me feel better.
Wow.
That, you know, you get to see some puppies having fun. That made me feel better.
That is some calculated ass marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. I can send you the link if you want. It made me very happy.
Overall, I think I like the 10-minute sequence.
Yeah. It was,
especially in its own, like in isolation.
The sense of dread that you have throughout the entire thing was like, because it was shot like a horror movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But also, like, the blood, the way that blood is in the show is such a, like, stock George R.R. Martin big brute bad guy.
Yeah.
And I feel like the show we don't really get that much. Like, even in Game of Thrones, like, there was Carl Tanner or whatever, but Carl Tanner is kind of like a smug kind of asshole, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the big dumb brute we just don't see very much of, and it's kind of nice to just,
I don't know, there's
to just see that guy kind of just living.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like that there are, like, definitely some of those archetypes, like, I would say a Dunk kind of fits that, but Dunk's a noble fellow. Dunk's a virtuous fellow.
Dunk's not going to, like, threaten to bash a man's head against the wall for, like,
oh my god, no, Gregor Clegane. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
there you go.
This is what I'm saying that I like it, I guess, is because it's, what if we had a POV Gregor Clegane scene?
Oh my gosh.
right?
Jesus.
And this is kind of like that. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is a part of the world that we see we see a lot of, but we don't see very much of in terms of like its depth or staying power.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just, I don't know. It's just it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's definitely fun seeing like POVs that are just there for one scene, and then we presumably don't see them again.
Yeah,
Because Aegon's probably going to be upset at them and catch at least one of them and do bad things. But cool that they were our POVs in that moment. That might lend credence to the theory that we're going to have Cregan in isolation at some point. We can hope.
Oh,
but anyways, yeah.
So, as you know in the book, I think it's Blood that they capture, right?
I forget who. I think it's Blood.
Yeah, they capture Blood with Jaehaerys's head.
Yeah,
and they torture it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's interesting that Cheese is the Yeah, Cheese is the Blood is the Kingsguard. Cheese is the rat catcher. Man, I don't like the thought of Cheese escaping. He knows too much. That one knows too much.
But the reason I bring it up is that in the show, there's some ambiguity over how okay with their little improvisation Daemon is going to be.
We might see that next episode. We might. We might not.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if it suggests that Daemon basically just leaves Blood out in the cold. It's like, oh, you got Jaehaerys' head? Well, get fucked.
Yeah. No, I could totally see Daemon doing that. He does seem like that type of person.
Yeah. Anyway, Blood and Cheese.
Blood and Cheese. What a terrible thing. What are you excited or hoping to see next episode? And I guess that's going to be our final question, because it's late for me and I need to get to bed.
We've been at this for a little while.
Yeah.
All right. So final question, and this is what am I looking forward to next episode, or what do I hope to get?
Yeah. Or what do you predict? Any of the above?
I'm not great at predicting.
I guess those are many questions as opposed to one. Pick any of those.
Okay. I think I'll probably be boring and allude to things that and pick things that I'd alluded to before.
Okay.
I'm interested in seeing Rhaenyra's reaction to this farce.
Yes.
And I'm interested in seeing more about Criston Cole and how he views his sexual relationship with his mistress. Mm-hmm. That's what I plan for.
Very interesting.
To give you a little bit of spicy stuff.
Yeah.
Mira Reeds is it's going to be catastrophic for pretty much everyone on the green side that this went down, because Criston Cole is going to be resented for fucking Alicent rather than being on guard duty. Alicent is going to blame herself, and maybe some other people will blame Alicent for distracting, to say, Criston Cole.
Here's the really weird thing.
Going to be in tears.
Here's the really weird thing, right?
Yeah.
Criston Cole gets promoted to the Hand of the King. I guess this is spoilers. This is a spoiler discussion, by the way. I'll everybody at home and Silver. Criston Cole gets promoted to Hand of the King, presumably either next episode or in episode 3 before Rick's Rest, right? I think people don't find out about Alicent and Criston's affair. That makes sense. That's my prediction. I think that if that secret were to be revealed, I don't know. Like, maybe it's later in the season. Maybe it's in season 3. Maybe Alice Rivers. Ooh, oh, this is a. Maybe Alice Rivers shows it to Aemond in a vision. Ooh, that's not fun to think
Oh,
about. No, because
okay.
I say that because in the books, Aemond and Kristen have a falling out after they're in
Mm,
Harrenhal, and it's not really explained why. So that might be that. That might be it.
that
We
makes
don't know.
sense. That makes sense.
We do not know.
So next episode, Laris is like, um, King, this might not have happened if you had a better hand. And then Aegon hangs out with his brother, and Aemon is like, and Aegon is like, man, you were right, Aemon. These people are terrible. We should have been killing them earlier. And Aemon is like, yeah, well, that's what me and our pseudo dad Kristen Cole have been working on. And then Aegon is like, Kristen Cole would make a good pseudo dad. And then the episode ends with Kristen Cole becoming Hand of the King.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
there you
fun
go.
to think
There's your
about.
prediction.
Exactly, exactly.
Look at it.
I'm interested in seeing how, how you're interested in seeing how Rhaenyra reacts. I'm interested in seeing how Aegon reacts because he was very funny this episode, and I feel like he's not going to be very funny next episode.
Yeah.
So,
Here's something else that people have pointed out.
yeah.
I think this was Mira Reed's too.
Yeah.
To try and give credit where it's due. So in the book, Aegon has 2 kids, and one of them is killed. Right.
In the books, Aegon has 3 kids, and one of them is killed.
Oh, sorry, 2 sons.
2 sons.
Only the sons count, you see, because
yeah.
And anyway, he has 2 sons. One of them is killed. In the show, he only has the one son who is killed, which means that now Aegon has to decide who's going to be heir between his brother and his daughter.
Oh,
which is familiar.
That's deja vu. Where have I? Yeah, that is very interesting to think about.
Yeah, good
wow.
job, Reeds.
Yeah, that's so interesting to think about. I really hope they expand on that. Because
it's definitely something that condensing the characters has
that's an advantage. That's a good thing that comes out of them doing that. Yeah, that's really interesting. That's a really good point.
Yeah,
and I think with that point, let's wrap up our episode here. Thank you so much, Silver, for coming on this show. This was a very fun chat. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, anytime. Do you have anything you would like to promote or share to the people at home?
No. Please
That's
do
fair.
Not find me.
Okay. I mean, before we started recording, you said, remember that thing?
Sure, yeah. I may be in an up and coming video on a smaller channel called the Interesting Nerd Club.
Oh, so fantastic! Lovely.
Keep an eye out for those little guys doing.
This is great. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we might have some of those guys on the show at some point, and I'm very excited.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Thank you once again for coming on, and yeah, this is our show. This is our show, everybody. Say goodbye.
Don't worry, you'll edit out
that. you think I'm editing stuff?
Oh no, of course not.
Anyways, yeah, no. Say goodbye.
Peace.
Peace.